Happy Monday. How are you all? Hello, come on in. Tonight we are talking all about the good and bad of expectations for our kids, right? The good and bad of it, whether it's a great idea to have them or whether we want to leave some of them behind. Hello, Kay King. Thanks for joining. I'm going to flip this around. Hello, guys. How are you? How's everyone doing? Yay! So tonight we are talking about this book, The Conscious Parent, and we are talking all about shelving our expectations, right? Whether having expectations for our children are good or bad. So what you want to do right now is you want to go ahead and share. You want to share on here on Facebook. You want to invite your friends and your followers on Facebook, Periscope, of course, and also on Twitter. Go ahead and invite. And I always want to say a quick hello to my replay viewers. Hello. Thank you for watching, and definitely know that you can give hearts. So for those of you that are new to me, hi, my name is Brooke-Sidney, and my site is called Bella and the Babe, and it's all about empowering authentic motherhood. So you guys, I hope that you can hear me. If you can hear me, just say okay or type something in the response box just so I know that you guys are hearing me. So tonight, again, we're talking all about whether it's a good idea to have expectations for our kids and what that really, really means. So a lot of times, as parents, we get asked the question, what do you want your child to be when he or she grows up? And oftentimes, most of us will give a response like, oh, we want them to be a lawyer or a doctor, or in today's age, we want them to be a scientist or an engineer or something techie. But, Dr. Shefali, the writer of this book, challenges us to think more consciously, meaning more aware about our children and what they may want to do. And so when she was asked this question, her answer was, he or she already is. I only want her to know her own wholeness as it flows from her inner stillness. Once she knows this, she will own the world. And so again, Dr. Shefali here is just really focusing on letting the child guide or be the guide for what they're going to do when they grow up, and not having, as parents, so much control and so much, this is my expectation for how my child's life should turn out. So it's really interesting to think about parenting and expectations in this manner, because honestly, children they come to us already full of dreams and already know what is inside of them, and not from a place of lack of not knowing what isn't there. And so when we see our own reality for all it isn't, we teach our children to operate from that place. So instead of saying our children actually have, God-given gifts and talents and a purpose that they came to do, we start focusing on all that they don't have or all that they don't know. And so this chapter and this book is asking us to challenge ourselves to think a little bit differently about that. Hello, Junior. Thanks so much for joining. We are talking all about the good and bad of expectations for our children. So, the good thing is that when you celebrate who your children are for their current abilities, it actually enables them to be true to themselves, and you encourage them to trust themselves. So one of the things that Dr. Shefali really encourages us to do or to think about, and I think this is really key, is what is our duty as a parent? And she says our duty as a parent is to mirror our children's wholeness, out of which they will manifest who they are becoming. And that is a little, I think, contrary to what most of us think as parents. A lot of us think that we're here to, guide them to do good things, to help build their moral character, to make sure that they end up being productive citizens. And a lot of times what ends up happening is that we will put our expectations about what all of those things mean. Hello, bless you, woman of God. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks. Thanks, Junior. Yeah, you guys, if you have any thoughts, feel free to pop on in. Don't hold your comments till the end. So tonight we're going to talk about really 3 big points. There are about 6 or 7 in this chapter, so we'll cover part 2 next week, which is after the Christmas holiday. So the first thing is we want to honor who our child is. And so what happens is, as parents, we often superimpose our expectations onto our children. And how easy is that, right, you guys? Like, how easy is that? A lot of us had these expectations imposed on us as a child. I know that I did. Thanks so much for the heart. I know that I did. You guys, and if you double tap the screen and give hearts, I think there should be like Christmas trees that come up because it's Christmas. But anyway, so I know a lot of us had expectations, amen. A lot of us had expectations imposed on us as children. I know that I did. And they were good expectations, meaning they were expectations to do well in school, expectations to like go to graduate school. Like I had the parent who, when I graduated, hello, Golden State Warrior, when I graduated from college, my expectations was, okay, when are you getting your graduate degree or your law degree? It wasn't like ever celebrating what I had just accomplished. And so that's one of the things that she's talking about, is really being there to celebrate your child where they are. Because we have to think about, hey, hello, Golden State Warrior, thanks so much for popping in. You came here right on time. So yes, a lot of us had expectations imposed upon us, and it didn't make us feel very good. And so what this point of this chapter is to think about these expectations as we pose them on our children. Because if we knew how to honor our own life and feelings just as they are, we would automatically honor those of our children. So for those of us, like even myself, where that wasn't necessarily the case when I grew up. So now I've had to relearn another way to be and honor my child, and a way to impose some expectations that are for his good, right? Without imposing the other ones that are just for my good, or to make sure he turns out the way that I want him to. So when we put so much pressure on them, oftentimes they feel like they can't even match up to our expectations. So we, in a sense, we set them up for failure, for goals oftentimes that aren't even their own. I think that's the really interesting part about it, is that we superimpose our expectations on them. We expect them to meet them. When they don't meet them, they feel like a failure for goals that were never their own. Hello, Funk Master. Thanks so much for joining. I'm so glad you're here. Oh, good. We saw a Christmas tree go up. So oftentimes, hello there. So oftentimes we say to ourselves, we are pushing our children for their own good, right? We are pushing our children for their own good. We're preparing them for the future. So we will push them academically. We'll put them in activities that really orient them towards getting into like a top college or a top school. And so all their focus on all their activities becomes about these markers, like getting into a great school or making good grades. And they don't ever learn for the sake of learning. You guys, that's one of the challenges with setting these expectations for their own good, is that they don't learn for the sake of learning. And it's difficult for them to uncover the things that they truly love and enjoy, and like basically allowing them to develop, because we have set their developmental plan based on what we want them to achieve, to get into whatever goal, whatever school, whatever career. We've marked them as a doctor, we've marked them as a lawyer. So they could really be an artist, or they could end up being an engineer or whatever. But when we push them for their own good, so to speak, it doesn't leave them a lot of room and space for them to develop on their own. And it's really, really important in their early years, because our children are really figuring out what they love. They're really figuring out who they are. They're really figuring out what they're good at and what they're not good at, quite frankly, and how they can express even what they're good at and their passions. So it's really, really important for us to think about that. Junior says it's important that we have expectations for our kids, but not too high or superimposed. Exactly. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. So whenever we think about, setting these expectations for our children, it's really important for us to ask ourselves, what is the motivation behind it? Is it truly that we enable them to develop authentically, or whether we are looking for them to attain some goal that maybe we had for ourselves that we didn't fulfill. So the second thing, and this kind of speaks to, hello Marvin, thanks for joining. This speaks to what Junior was just saying. We do want to set a bar. We do want to set expectations, but we want to set the expectations for their good, right? Not our good, for their good. And so, many of us believe that it's our responsibility to have high expectations for them, as that's the way to help them learn to have high expectations for themselves. But when they don't meet these expectations, what do we then do? Usually we push them harder. We will enroll them in more classes. You guys, we will get them tutors. And sometimes if we think it's drastic enough, we will take them to a therapist. But sometimes, honestly, it's not a goal or an expectation, especially if the bar is too high, that they even embraced, or quite honestly, they may not be equipped for that. God may not have equipped them to be an engineer or have a scientific mind. They could have an artist's mind, or they could have, a writer's mind, right? So they may not be great at science, but they may be great at English. So it's really, really important. This kind of goes back to point one, to honor who our child is and know who our child is, so that we can set a bar, or we can fuel their passions and do things that really, really honor them. Because when the bar is set too high, our children feel small. It basically makes our children feel small. The other thing, which I think is a really interesting point that she brought up, but I often talk about this to different mothers that I teach and talk with, is that sometimes when we set the trajectory, whether it's for their career, their romantic life, or their education, we actually limit them. Thanks so much for the hearts, you guys. They have the power to manifest things that we can't even imagine. So if you look at it, if you look even 20 years ago, there are jobs that exist now that did not exist before, right? There are jobs now because of the internet that are here that our parents and definitely our grandparents could not even have thought of. Think of for example, a social media manager. That didn't even exist, you guys. That didn't even exist. Or, for example, even in my old field, or my field is law, and so there wasn't really internet law. There was media law, but now there's internet law and all these different things. There's all these different areas and boundaries and new positions and new things that did not exist. So it's really, I think when we flip the idea on its head about setting expectations and putting a bar, is we can also limit them. So when we actually look and see where their interests lie and trust them a little bit to embrace their strengths and work towards it, because we want them to work hard, right? We want them to work hard at what they choose to do and guide them towards, figuring out what it is that they're good at. But it's interesting to think about the fact that what our children today, right, could be good at in 18 years from now or 15 years from now when they're entering college or they're entering the workforce, because it could look completely, and chances are it will look at some level different from today. So I just think that that's cool. I think it's another way to look at it, instead of, thinking about us knowing all in terms of all the opportunities, to make them a lawyer or a doctor. There could be something so magnificent waiting for them, you guys, that God sees, whatever, a bigger plan for what they could have to do for their life that we don't even see yet, right? So I think that's a really interesting way to look at it. Another idea is to honestly let your child want to go to that fancy school or have that big degree or graduate degree or whatever, and then they'll work hard for it rather than us being the ones that want it for them. I really think that is key. So on page 172, Dr. Shefali gives some great ideas for how we can set the bar. One of the things that she says that's really cool is set the bar for them speaking in their authentic voice. Junior says, my son once said, Dad, that's what you want, but not what I want for myself. Wow, great kid. Yes, that's so awesome. And I know you listen to him. So that is so great. Yeah, and a lot of us do that because we want the best for our children, and we've seen from our lives kind of what paths have seemed to net that good result, even though we cannot honestly look behind the window, to really uncover, how people really feel about their jobs and lives. So we can only see from the inside out, or from the outside in. Yeah, from the outside in. But we still want the best for our child, and we think that certain paths lead that way. Junior says, yes, I did listen. Yes, you did listen. I love it because you just wrote it. So that means that you were totally listening, and being a great father. Because ultimately, that's all we can do, is we can try, and then we can try to do some guidance, and then you've already raised a son that is able to, as she says, this is one of the areas we set the bar for, speak from their authentic voice, and your son just did that. Another thing that she says is set the bar for engaging in daily dialogue with you. He did that. Another thing that she says is like engaging in acts of service, sitting in stillness, being able to be quiet, manifesting imagination and creativity, and being kind to themselves and others. She gives a great list. But I love that Junior gave that great example, because you as a father have already set a great bar, because your son is speaking from his authentic voice. He's engaging in daily dialogue with you. You're already showing these great things and establishing the things that we as parents, I think, can do to encourage our children. So that is awesome. So thank you so much for sharing it. And then the third point that we're going to cover today, so we don't just talk so long today, is what you can realistically expect of your child. And these are like 3 basic elements. You want them to, 1, have respect for themselves, right? And you want them, 2, to have respect for others. And 3, you want them to have respect and work on their safety. Those are the 3 big things that our children should know that we expect them to do, right? That we expect them to be good in these areas, right? But beyond these basics, right, our children have the right to really manifest who they want to be, and I would argue who God destined them to be and purposed them to be. So, and that may even be not what you wish for them, right? A lot of us, especially, I have a really good friend who is a writer, and she's also an engineer. So she did the engineering track so she could have the safe track, and then she did the writing and poet track because that was her heart track. And the funny thing is that she gets amazing opportunities now as a writer and a poet. She's published 2 books. She's on her 3rd book. And so you can just see really how God purposed her and what she was here to do. And it's so great that she, even though she has like this science background that she kind of made herself get because she was so scared of being like the starving artist, she still has used, I feel like, and she feels like, what she was put here to do, and that was to create art with words. Yeah, wow, bless her. Yes, exactly. So she gives us, Dr. Shefali, in this book, she gives us some great ideas on ways that you can have hope for your children. Yeah, so awesome. It is. It's really cool. Our kids, and even, us as grown adults, we do figure it out. We do figure it out, especially if we're intent upon figuring out what we're purposely, our purpose, what we're supposed to do, and, seeing how we're gifted. We do figure it out, but it helps when we have parents that encourage us and put us on a track to really embrace our strengths and to really look for our gifting. But Dr. Shefali says, what are some of the things that you can hope for your children? Because we all have hopes, and our hopes really are the basis where a lot of us then start developing these expectations. But if we could stay in the areas of hope, that would really help us. So she lists several of on 173, page 173, and she says for a couple are like, not that they will be a good achiever, but they will be a good learner. Not that they will obey you, but that they will respect you. I think that one was so interesting. Not that they will blindly follow your dictates, but that they will seek your counsel. And I think that that is a big mind shift and change for a lot of us because we were raised differently. I know I was raised in a home where it was do as I say, not as I do. Speak when you're spoken to, that kind of environment, obey. And this is more of a framework of we want our children to respect us. We want our children to want to seek our counsel, to want to get the thoughts from us. Junior says, yes, amen, exactly. We want our children to come to us, to feel like they can talk to us, right? In a respectful manner, but still talk to us, right? She says, not that they will be a star, but they will be the master, the art of being. Not that they will follow our vision, but that they will create their own. I think that's beautiful. Not that they will achieve success, but that they will live a life of purpose. And I would argue, create their own definition of success. And she says, not that they will find direction, but that they will find meaning. And I think that is so key in a world right now that often seems empty of meaning, where it's very, what you see on the outside and not so much focused on the inside. And so if we can have children that look for and find meaning, I think that as parents, we will have done a very good job. And she says that they won't fail, but that they will find the courage to start again. I think that is beautiful because it's so true that our children, just like all of us, they are going to fail. They're going to fail. If they start anything worth doing, there's going to be mistakes made and there's some failures, right? But let's hope that we can teach them and instill in them the courage to start again. And then she says, and it's not like they won't hurt others, but they will find the grace to ask for forgiveness. And I felt like, whoa, that is a beautiful list that she gave on page 173. I added to it, of course, because that's kind of what I do. But I think that it's so important to think about the things that we hope for. Really, I think about it as the character of the children that we're trying to, build and foster more so than the outcome, right? Because if the person has a really good character, they're going to flourish in whatever situation they're in, right? Whatever they do with their lives, they're going to have the right character. Be purpose driven, have meaning, be full of grace, be able to ask and seek forgiveness, be of service to other people. I mean, those are the type of kids that, I'm hoping to raise and that I think a lot of parents are hoping to raise and that have their own dreams, not the ones I give them. So, I really think this chapter is so good to help us really shine a light on the expectations that we're having for our children, that we have placed on them, and to really reevaluate which ones we want to choose to go forward with, because we can always change. We can always change at any day what our expectations are going to be for them, what our hopes are going to be for them. We can change that at any time. And so the one thing that I want to leave you guys all with is that, we have to free ourselves first. We have to free ourselves from thinking that everything has to be perfect and then we all have to reach these unrealistic sometimes goals, right? Because we're human, right? We're human and then we're a parent. And so we're all learning. We're all learning every day. And so we're all doing the best that we can. So when we have realistic expectations of ourselves, then we'll be able to have realistic and self-honoring expectations for our children. It kind of flows like that because we can only give what we know, right? We can only give what we know. So, I encourage us to give ourselves a little bit of patience, give ourselves a little bit of grace as we parent and as we think about the expectations that we set for our children. So anyway, that's it for this week. For those of you that know, I'm also the creator of the Mama Love Planner. So I'm still selling it. I still have some left for this year. So I encourage you guys to go out and get it. It is the Mama Love Planner. It's the only planner out there that combines, only planner out there that combines traditional planning with a self-care practice, with daily declarations to uplift and affirm, as well as a gratitude practice. Hello, Helsie. Thank you so much for joining. So I encourage you to go out and get it, and you can find the Mama Love Planner at bit.ly/ML Planner, and they are still on sale. There's a daily version and a weekly version, and I encourage you guys to give them, if not for yourself as a mama, then give them to a mama you know. But that's really it, you guys. We're going to continue with part 2 next Monday, talking more about expectations. But again, you guys, just making us think about what we can do to honor our children, to have great expectations that are in line with who they are designed to be. So that's it, you guys. Feel free to visit me on my website. I'm at bellaandthebabe.com. Junior says, may God bless the works of her hand in Jesus' name. Thank you so much, Junior. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for saying that. I really appreciate it. You guys have an awesome Monday night, and I will see you next Monday with a Conscious Parent Scope, and I might be hopping in periodically through the week with some other fun and motivational tips. Talk to you soon.